This week, how concerned are you about national unity? Also, is Canada prepared for a global pandemic? I'm Glenn McGuinness, and this is Outburst.
I don't think anybody's really prepared to deal with it myself.
Think they were prepared? I don't think they're prepared. They're reacting.
If it's a mild event, yes, it'll be fine. If it's not, it's hard to tell.
I'm sure we're going to be prepared when it comes, if it comes.
If you don't prepare, then you're in for problems.
The World Health Organization has declared the COVID-19 outbreak a pandemic. As concerns grow over the impact here in Canada, the federal government announced it would set aside $1 billion to try to combat and mitigate the impact of a coronavirus outbreak. The money would go to things that range from helping the provinces and research to personal protective equipment and the repatriation of Canadians. On March 11th, Federal Health Minister Patty Hajdu said it's safe to assume that between 30 and 70% of Canadians could become infected. So we took to the streets to ask people if they feel secure with the steps the federal government is taking in these unusual times. Our question: is Canada prepared to deal with a global pandemic?
I think so. It's what more can you do? We know all of the things that have to happen in the past, and I think they're well prepared. It's just people have to be cautious and smart and use common sense, which is most uncommon.
I actually work in a hospital right now.
Yes.
We already are going to have shortages of equipment. The population I work with is particularly vulnerable. I'm also an ex-scientist. If it's a mild event, yes, it'll be fine. If it's not, it's hard to tell. People are hyped up and hysterical, so they should calm down about things, but it has the potential to be particularly nasty. The latest data suggests the death rate's higher than they thought, but it's going to attack people like me or you, because we're older. We're vulnerable. Kids seem to be immune. It's hard to say if we're prepared, but I do know we don't have enough PPE, personal protective equipment, already.
But I don't know if it's as bad as the media lets it on to be. So I don't think we are completely, but working on it.
We just came from the airport not too long ago, and I mean the screening is pretty decent in terms of the pandemic, right? You're talking about the corona, right? Yeah, in that sense, the screening, you've got thermal cameras, more or less, it's good to go.
They're notifying everybody that comes and goes, how they come in and out of the countries, cities, and I think that's a smart way to do it. Get the other outside people that haven't got the problem yet, like they got the problem but not as much as other people. Well, you prepare. If you don't prepare, then you're in for problems.
I absolutely believe we are. When you look at the numbers, it's really not as bad as people think it is. I think it's being over-publicized is what it is.
Do you think that the current situation has sort of affected your want or desire to travel?
Absolutely. I think right now is the perfect time to just stay home and kind of keep your loved ones close by.
I don't believe so, no.
Why not?
Did she just watch Contagion?
Yeah, we just watched a scary movie about that. No, I just don't think everyone thinks it's as serious as it is, and I think if it really hits, people are going to be stunned and won't know what to do.
So you don't think people are prepared?
No.
Are you prepared?
I believe so, yes. I have my hand sanitizer, my gloves, and my face masks if I do need them. But I don't need them right now. I have a healthy immune system, so I don't believe that I will get infected. So,
okay. I'm going to ask the same question. Is Canada prepared to deal with a global flu pandemic?
No. For the same reasons, but also there's so much misinformation about it that it's difficult for people to determine what's real and what's not. What the threat is. Do you wear a mask or do you wear gloves? I was speaking to someone at the airport, a security guard, and I asked why he wasn't wearing a mask, and he said, you don't have to wear a mask. It doesn't help you at all. You need to wash your hands 20 seconds and wear the gloves when you can. So I don't think that's common knowledge enough.
I believe they are, yes. Sounds like the officials are gearing up and have contingency plans in place.
No, I'm not. So, and nor can I give you a reason why, and I feel bad about that.
Do you feel that there's enough awareness here about what's going on and how to protect yourself?
Absolutely not.
I would say parts of Canada are. I think Toronto's probably the best prepared city in the world after SARS. I'd say other parts maybe not so much, but I know Toronto's in really good shape. And sort of the areas around Toronto, I would say we're in really good shape.
I think there's lots of awareness. I think there's a lot of fear too, which is, valid given what's been happening. But I think Canada is prepared, and I think, the best thing we can do are the things public health has been saying for years, like wash your hands, wash them a lot, use soap, and hopefully we'll all be okay. They'll have a vaccine in a year.
I mean, I think we're taking some right steps by quarantining people who are coming from countries with higher levels of cases, but I think there's definitely more we could do to be prepared. Just pour more money into studying viruses like that. Probably, they say they got people quarantined for 14 days because that's the incubation period. Maybe make it a little bit longer just to be extra sure. Stuff like that.
I doubt it very much. Look what SARS did to us. Do you think they were prepared? I don't think they're prepared. They're reacting. That's what I think.
I feel yes. About, I don't know if it was a month ago or like 3 weeks ago, the city here had to be shut down. And I feel government did a pretty good job in kind of handling all the inevitabilities of telling people that they need to be locked in their house for 7 or 8 days. And I think on a national scale, they could probably do it, maybe not as effectively, because obviously you have more municipalities that you're dealing with, but I feel like the government could cooperate with municipalities for something as apolitical as a health pandemic.
I don't think they're ready for the coronavirus. We're letting a lot of people, just doesn't seem to be much restrictions on travel and stuff. So I don't think we're really ready for that, but it seems to be the flu is worse than the coronavirus. More people are dying from that, I think. So it doesn't seem like we're ready, no.
I don't think anybody's really prepared to deal with it myself. It seems like it's spreading rather quickly and whatnot, but for a developed country like Canada, United States, I would hope that they're prepared for it. But remains to be seen, I guess.
Well, I guess that's everywhere. That could be in every country and every continent, is everyone has to make themselves prepared. It's all on keep yourself active. Don't be around people that are sick, kind of. Keep your house clean and eat properly. It's the best you can do, I guess. Keep your checkups with your doctor and hope for the best. Look up to the Lord.
It's been a rough year in terms of a harmonious coexistence with Ottawa and some of the western provinces. Residents of Alberta and Saskatchewan have repeatedly said they feel dismissed by the federal government, and the possibility of mending fences with western provinces becomes more daunting as the weeks and months go by. But Canada has weathered other close calls in the past with provinces, particularly Quebec. So, should this be any different? Our question. How concerned are you about a decline in national unity?
I'm really concerned about that. I think if we're not watching out for each other, that's going to lead to all the problems we're having right now is because we aren't watching out for each other. I think what we need to do is realize that we're all the same. Instead of separating everyone into these little boxes or groups, we have to realize we're one big village, and if we watch out for each other, it's going to solve half the problems we have.
I think the provinces are fragmented. You've got Quebec going in one direction, you've got the Prairie provinces going in another direction, Newfoundland's concerned. I think there's a lot of problems out there.
Canada makes sense, and it makes sense for every region, and I think cooler heads will prevail in the end. I was in Alberta when they were talking about separation a long time ago, when everyone had their bumper stickers that said, "Let the Eastern freeze in the dark." And so I remember it well, and I think cooler heads always prevail.
That bothers me a lot. It made no sense in the last election that the west side of Canada just went in one direction, and now, Saskatchewan has no representation right now, and then the east goes in an entirely different direction. I didn't think we'd find that kind of divisiveness in Canada. I really didn't.
Does it concern you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. What do we do next election? What do we do going forward? What if BC wants to, take off and become its own country? Things like that. I just wish there was somebody that could bring it all together, and I don't know how it's going to happen.
It's up and down. It comes and goes. So I've seen it up and I've seen it down. It's no different. I don't see any problems.
I'm a little bit concerned.
and especially with the Indigenous question and that type of unity. Also the unity regarding oil projects and climate change and so on like that. It is dividing people into different camps.
I think our Prime Minister's done a very poor job, and he's made it worse than better. And when things have come down, push comes to shove, he's shown that he has no backbone, whether that's from the SNC Lavalin scandal to now what's happening with natives. It's just on and on and on. We need a new guy soon.
I cannot imagine Alberta is seriously going to leave.
I hear that.
They got to get their act together. Really? I'm not very concerned. Economically, they'd be nuts to leave. So.
I'm going to re-ask the question. How concerned are you about a decline in national unity?
I am concerned. I agree with Linda. I think Alberta leaving is absolutely ridiculous. Look at Quebec. They've tried several times to leave, and we need to be united. We need to be together as a country.
Our Prime Minister diddle-daddles around. He don't get on the job. And I've noticed that now. He's trying to get on the job, and it's a little too late.
Not very. I think folks will rally together in the end. We always have, and I'm pretty confident, having lived in both Alberta and Ontario now. I'm sensitive to both views and think that there's certainly a compromise in the offing.
It's a bad thing. A decline in national unity is a bad thing. Keep Canada as a country as a strong and whole. We have to be united and stay together.
I think that's a bit of a struggle for the Canadian government. It's like you're trying to please everyone all the time. You can only please some of the people some of the time.
Not too concerned, to be honest with you. The decline in national unity, I mean, I always thought Canadians are Canadians, and the only issue I ever saw was when Quebec tried to become their own entity, but I mean, other than that, we're all, it's not even a thought to me.
Oh, very concerned. I really think, between, we got like Wexit, we got the stuff, with the pipeline going on, I really think national unity is probably at an all-time low, and it's not good. We need to come together as Canadians, I think.
So I don't know if there's declines, or maybe Alberta wants to get out. But I don't think they're going anywhere. In Quebec's not going anywhere because they can't afford it.
I think that we kind of have a give-take relationship with each other. We give Alberta people to work, and they give the people who work money, and they bring it home. But unity in Canada will always be there because it's Canada.
I guess I'm kind of skeptical about how much national unity there was to begin with, or when we're kind of judging when the disunity started. In Newfoundland, I don't really feel like there's all that much Canadian unity to begin with. So not too concerned, I guess, is my response.
What interesting historical fact is shared by Pierre Trudeau, Brian Mulroney, and John Turner? They're all from Quebec. They were all prime ministers in the same year. They all have the same birthday.
The birthday one?
I'm going to say birthday one.
Birthday. Yes, birthday, final answer.
They were all from Quebec.
They were all from Quebec. Well, they're all from Quebec, I think.
Okay, what do you say?
Same thing?
Same thing.
I don't know.
I'd say they were all from Quebec.
They're all from Quebec.
Prime ministers in the same year.
All right, I'll go with her.
They were all prime ministers in the same year. Very good.
Thank you.
1984 was a tumultuous year in Canadian political history, where the country ended up with 3 prime ministers. In February, Pierre Trudeau announced that he would not continue to lead the Liberal Party in the next election. In June, John Turner won the leadership of the Liberal Party and became prime minister. But Turner called an election only 9 days after being sworn into office. In the September general election, the Liberals lost to Brian Mulroney and the Progressive Conservatives by a landslide. Mulroney would serve as Prime Minister for another 9 years. The rail blockades that have stifled traffic in eastern Canada have had a profound effect on many Canadians. The protests are in support of the Wet'suwet'en Nation hereditary chiefs who are looking to halt construction of a natural gas pipeline on their traditional land in northwestern BC. The federal government has taken a cautious approach and have ruled out calling in the military, at least for now, saying the provinces and their police forces can intervene if necessary. But if things do escalate, how should the federal government react? Our question. How far should the federal government go to stop rail blockades?
Well, it's a difficult situation, I guess, for everybody. It could be the most simple, respectful interaction, or it could be a physical action. I guess it depends on the people or the entities that try to pursue the aggressive actions or non-aggressive. I mean, they have to react in accordingly with how the people who are against these things react. So, I mean, take it as far as it's taken, or be respectful for people who are respectful, I guess is the best way to put it.
I mean, if it's against the law, we can't have two standards of law. We can't have people getting fined for walking on the train tracks and then people allowed to just, set fire to cars and stations, and it's a rule of law. I'm not necessarily for the pipeline, but I'm not necessarily for people burning down train stations and burning trains and subverting the rule of law. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean you get to break the law.
I guess it depends in which direction you're talking about going far. I think that the federal government should take the hint and cooperate in whatever way the hereditary chiefs see fit, primarily getting the RCMP off Wet'suwet'en land and cooperating, basically.
I don't think they should be expressing any authority over it. I think they should give the people of the land what they want, and then the people wouldn't be blocking. They wouldn't be blocking the trains, and they wouldn't be there at all. They'd be on their land, happy. They don't want to be doing this. They don't want to be blocking trains. They don't want to be blocking commuters. They want their land, and we have no right to that land.
I don't know if you'd call it terrorism, like the word's getting bantered about, but they should enact some kind of federal law that you make it a federal crime to block rail lines, main thoroughfares, stuff like that, for sure, because it's impacting the country from west to east, and we got to maintain the flow of goods and that sort of stuff, for sure. And not only that, the economic loss and whatnot, people are losing their jobs over this, so I mean, it's not a good situation at all.
I'd say they need to go further than they are today. So I'm one for the rule of law, and I think that the implications of simply stemming the flow of goods and services in the country and transportation is more than we can allow any one group to do on their own.
I think there needs to be a lot more talking, and I think they should have talked sooner. It probably all comes down again to money and resources. I think it's done a wonderful thing in the sense that you probably won't find a Canadian who doesn't know about the rail blockades. It's a drag. I have family in Montreal. It's a good thing they were flying in, but we're inconvenienced. In the general scope of things, that's a minor price to pay.
They need to go as far as they absolutely need to do effective reconciliation. That's how you're going to stop the rail blockades. We have 10,000 unprotected kilometers of track in this country, or even more. And if you try to use force, it's just the rail blockade is going to pop up somewhere else. What needs to happen is meaningful nation-to-nation negotiation with the Wet'suwet'en and other groups to respect the fact that things like the CPG pipeline were run through native lands for expedience sake, because they didn't want to inconvenience the settler people in Spitsville around it. So there needs to be meaningful nation-to-nation negotiation to make that happen.
I think there should be some tolerance of it. I think there should be parameters about how long a blockade could last, for instance, just like how far strikers can go when they're in front of a building. There's rules that they have to follow. And I think those rules should be universal. It's Canada, and I understand the history of the First Nations people. I'm very sensitive to it. But there has to be some structure there, and we don't have that structure right now.
Oh, that is a really tough one. I think Indigenous communities have used rail blockades recently to highlight the issues of the impact of colonialism and the fact that the federal government has not ever really addressed the land claims that Indigenous people have. I realize that that causes a lot of inconvenience to a lot of Canadians and a lot of businesses, but really social change in our in Canada has come about by women chaining themselves to the doors of Parliament to get the vote, and to Indigenous people blockading railroads to have the federal government sit up and listen and start to recognize them as nation states and not as communities to be ruled by federal law. So until the federal government deals with unceded territory and territorial land claims, it's not going to go away.
Here in Canada, there have been calls for a national mental health strategy. Mental illness affects people from all walks of life, and the effect on families, the economy, the workplace, and especially the healthcare system have been substantial. We spoke to Canadians about their ideas in putting a Canada-wide solution in place. Our question: what suggestions would you have for a national mental health strategy?
That's a good one, because I just got diagnosed with ADHD within the last few months, 46 years old, so it's definitely something that's got to get looked at and bring all provinces on board, and I'm not sure what they can do, but we definitely got to talk more about it for sure, because there's definitely a certain stigma attached to mental health issues and mental health problems and whatnot for sure. And another thing, I believe employers got to develop their own plan within companies and whatnot as well, because I lost my job basically because of my mental health issues.
I definitely think getting to the root of what's causing these mental health problems is probably the biggest thing we should focus on, because until we can actually figure out why it's such an issue, we're not going to be able to do anything about it.
Every second person you talk to is dealing with something, and but it's coming out of the caveman ages into today's society, basically.
Yeah, I'm a retired war veteran myself, so mental health has been a part of my life for 10 years now, and it seems to depend on where you are and what province you're in to the services you're allocated. Some provinces are very well equipped, some provinces are very well equipped with not being equipped, if that makes sense. I mean, they just do not want to deal with people with mental health, and it resonates throughout not only the mental health community, but other entities through the provincial government, like child services, other entities which look at your history and mental health as more of a restriction than a benefit, even though you may not be the person who is the typical risk factor person.
I mean, like, especially being from Newfoundland, I think, we have the worst mental health in the whole country. I think we need to pour more money into it, and I also think we need to get kids at a younger age. Like, I think too many people get bullied, and then the result is they just develop these horrible mental health issues, and by that time it's too late. So I think we really need to stop it at a young age,
I think it should be free. Anything to do with mental health should be free. Getting a therapist should be free. Getting addiction services should be free. Everything should be free. It should be included in the healthcare plan.
I think that they need to talk about mental health from a young age, because it's just like the flu, it happens to everyone. It's not anything that needs to be shunned from. I've suffered from mental health myself. I'd say I'm a mental health survivor, because I know how to get out of my kind of upset zones, because I had occupational therapy after being hospitalized, and I found that helped me a lot. I think you just need to learn how to reset yourself and learn how to deal with our stresses better, because that's not really part of our day-to-day. And we have a lot of stress in our day and age. So.
Wow, that's a great question. National mental health strategy. I think the government is actually putting a lot of money into it, but I think it takes more than just money. I think we have to actually have a plan on what we want to do. So I think what we have to do is sit down with every city and just figure out what it is their needs are and try to address that.
I feel like people are talking more about it, and that's certainly the first step. I don't know if every workplace or work setting has supports for people that need what they do, but the more we speak vocally about it, the more awareness there will be, and hopefully that will lead to change. We all have to fight for it.
Look, I think people just have to need to keep talking about it. And if folks come out and declare that they've too have had help or issues to their friends and neighbors, then the next one's more willing to step up. So I think that that's kind of key.
Do you think there's enough awareness?
Certainly more so than in the past, and so that's a growing thing and probably very individual.
Well, that's a great question. I think there's a move right now afoot to have mental health services rolled into the Canada Health Act, so that it's included in your regular healthcare program. It is to an extent, but not to a broad enough extent. So like you can still get access to some psychiatric services and stuff, but nowhere near as complex as we need. But the main thing that needs to happen is funding, and I would say it's as urgent or more so than pharmacare.
Oh, we definitely need a mental health strategy. I think if I have lots of friends who are teachers and in different sectors, and mental health is not something that is in the mental health sector. It's in every walk of life. It's in workplaces, it's in schools, it's in community, and we are not addressing it and we're not dealing with it well. And I think we don't understand the root causes of why it's exploding right now. So what is happening in our communities and in our society that is making that happen? But the Band-Aid that is our mental health system is certainly something that needs to be really looked at. I think that we are coming to a crisis situation with mental health.
My older brother developed schizophrenia, and nobody caught it. He went on to university, and nobody caught it. And then at 26 years old, he committed suicide. And an absurd loss for something that is perfectly treatable, and somebody somewhere should have been looking for the signs. And it happens constantly. Depression and PTSD and all of these things that are going on. It doesn't have to happen that way.
It's got to start with the kids, right? Because if we don't deal with the little ones that need help, then we're certainly not going to be able to deal with them as they get older. So we need to start right at the very young age of 3-4 years old and work on that. Because dealing with the older ones, we're not getting anywhere there either.
Thanks for watching this episode of Outburst on the Cable Public Affairs channel. I'm Glenn McGuinness. If you have any comments about this show or any other show, you can find us on social media. You can also find us on our website at www.cpac.ca. It's your turn to speak up, and we're listening.